Thank you for joining us for this look at the best original reporting from KPBS News. This week, I'm Maya Trabulsi. Coming up in the show, we go back to campus, see how SDSU is resuming in-person classes while navigating the COVID threat. An in-depth look at the contenders. We learn more about the recall candidates trying to unseat Governor Gavin Newsom. Also, race and equity. Meet the woman hired by the city of San Diego to lead its social justice efforts. America's mission to leave Afghanistan is now a deadly one after ISIS took responsibility for a bombing that killed nearly 200 people, including 13 U.S. troops. In comments to the nation, President Joe Biden is promising retribution.
To those who carried out this attack, as well as anyone who wishes America harm, know this: we will not forgive. We will not forget. We will hunt you down and make you pay. We will respond with force and precision at our time, at the place we choose, in the moment of our choosing. Here's what you need to know. These ISIS terrorists will not win.
President Biden insists he will stick to the deadline of ending evacuation efforts by Tuesday. Of course, KPBS News will have updates throughout the weekend as this story develops. The humanitarian mission extends all the way to San Diego County as two families from El Cajon make the journey home. KPBS reporter Alexandra Rangel has their story.
Back here, we're waiting for them. We're anxious for them.
The Cajon Valley School District says one of their families returned home to El Cajon Wednesday. That family has 5 children, 4 of which attend the school district.
They are here in El Cajon. They're resting. We're waiting for them to be well again, and we're hoping that their students can rejoin their classrooms soon.
Tamara Otero is the governing board president at Cajon Valley. She says they were notified that about 24 of their students were stranded in Afghanistan following the Taliban's takeover. Since then, it's been a battle to get their students home, most of whom were visiting family over summer break. The district received word Thursday that 2 more families were out of danger.
We do know of 2 more families that are out of Afghanistan and that are safe. I can't tell you any more about where they are. They're not in El Cajon yet, but they are safe.
Congressman Darrell Issa is working with the school district and has been in contact with the families in Afghanistan. In a statement released Thursday regarding the rescued families, Issa said, "While we have made extraordinary progress, there are so many more Americans stranded in Afghanistan. We have more work to do and under extremely difficult conditions." With tensions growing higher in Kabul, it's unclear when the remaining 5 families will return. But Issa says he's working with the Pentagon and the White House to help them evacuate. And back at home, Cajon Valley anxiously awaits their safe return.
We love you. We think of you often. You're in our hearts. And we'll do what we can to support you.
Alexandra Rangel, KPBS News.
San Diego is still seeing hundreds of new COVID-19 cases every day, largely among those who are not vaccinated. As Melissa May reports, local doctors say it might be time to bring back indoor mask wearing to get the recent spike under control.
San Diego County is now the largest county in California that has not reinstated a mask mandate.
We should have a mask mandate.
Dr. Eric Topol is the director of the Scripps Research Translational Institute and says the Delta variant is highly transmissible between people, even in outdoor settings. The whole country is currently struggling through its 4th wave of COVID.
While we're in it, there's so much circulating virus to deal with. The best thing we can do is up our protection to the max. And we're not doing it generally, and that's a problem.
Dr. Topol is not the only medical professional who thinks the county needs to mask up again. The San Diego County Medical Society and the Hospital Association of San Diego and Imperial Counties are calling on the county to reinstate mask mandates. Even the superior courthouses in San Diego County now require everyone to wear a mask inside.
We're doing it to help everyone that accesses the court.
Presiding Judge Lorna Oxney of the San Diego Superior Court cites the Delta variant for masking up her courtroom.
We can't be open if we don't have our employees here. If people have to quarantine, if judges can't come in, if the deputies and the defendants and the litigants, we just need to keep everybody safe. And so the best way during this Delta surge is to keep everybody in masks.
We again asked San Diego County whether a mask mandate would be reinstated. They told us they continue to monitor the situation. For most indoor settings, masks are required for those who are unvaccinated and recommended for those who are vaccinated. Masks are required for everyone in public transit, K-12 schools, and healthcare. Melissa May, KPBS News.
San Diego State is wrapping up its first week back on campus after more than a year of remote learning. KPBS education reporter MG Perez was there on day one.
Everyone's a winner when it comes to COVID-19 education and prevention.
Know anyone that needs help, or if you need help, just reach out to us.
It's the first day of classes here at SDSU and the first opportunity for the university's economic crisis response team to reach students. This semester, everything students need help with has some connection to COVID's ongoing health threat, including food, housing, finances.
Biggest hope is that every student is able to succeed in school without having to worry about any type of crisis.
SDSU requires every student to provide proof of full COVID vaccination before they can be on campus. Masks are required too. So far, 94% of the student body, that's 33,000 students, have submitted documentation.
Everyone is supposed to be vaccinated, and the ones who aren't are getting regularly tested. So I feel pretty comfortable.
It's super interesting. I didn't really know where anything was. It's my first time having to learn where classes are and stuff. So I'm super excited to be here though.
This fall, there are 6,000 students living here on campus. That's 1,500 less than before the COVID pandemic began. University officials hope that less students will help prevent another outbreak. San Diego City College started classes this morning, too. Most students are choosing to stay home and learn online. Only 20% of the total programs are being offered in person. In Chula Vista, Southwestern College has increased cleaning and sanitizing protocols, along with partnering with the San Isidro Health Center for ongoing vaccination clinics here on campus. Over the weekend, San Diego State officials investigated reports of violence and large party gatherings near the campus. It's another health risk students face.
It's just irresponsible, with this whole COVID going around. You got to think about the other people, that are actually suffering from it.
For now, prevention and an education go hand in hand. MG Perez, KPBS News.
The Tracking COVID-19 section at kpbs.org has all of our coverage and resources, and that includes details on vaccines, the latest case numbers, and our local reporting. You can get there by clicking the link on our homepage. Local firefighters are among those responding to the massive wildfires to our north. Help is being requested from across the state, and it goes beyond putting out the flames. John Carroll tells us how 2 San Diegans are answering the call.
Some of the most beautiful forest in California on fire. This video was shot by firefighters from San Diego Fire Rescue a few weeks ago while they were helping knock down the Dixie Fire. Now, the big challenge is the Caldor Fire. Nearly 137,000 acres burned over 213 square miles around Lake Tahoe. And along with the disaster that has meant for people, it's also been a nightmare for animals. So, just like when the call goes out for help from firefighters, a similar call has now gone out for help with the critters. The San Diego Humane Society answered the call, providing 2 out of 10 animal control officers requested from across the state. Officers Joy Ollinger and Sandra Anderson packed up their stuff and headed out early this morning. They'll hit the ground running once they arrive, ready to help in a variety of ways.
Welfare checks, animal bites, daily food and care with animal husbandry, as well as our officers are ready and equipped to do any cruelty investigations. Officers Ollinger and Anderson will be in the fire region for the next 10 days, helping the most vulnerable among us, the animals. John Carroll, KPBS News.
Afghanistan isn't the only story this week centered around people desperate to enter the U.S. The asylum situation at our border has been tied up in courts for years. Alexandra Rangel tells us how the Supreme Court is weighing in.
The U.S. Supreme Court says the Biden administration has to reinstate a Trump-era policy known as Remain in Mexico, formerly known as Migrant Protection Protocols. The policy says migrants have to stay in Mexico while they wait for their U.S. immigration court dates. President Biden lifted that policy shortly after taking office. But now the Supreme Court is saying Biden's decision to end it was arbitrary and capricious.
It's the same exact standard they used back when Trump was trying to get rid of DACA. The same standard was used, and you're not making a compelling enough argument as to why should this order be lifted.
Saman Nasseri, a local immigration attorney, says his clients will have to stay in Mexico, many of whom are living in shelters and encampments in Tijuana. The court's decision was a result of lawsuits filed by Texas and Missouri, who said lifting the policy placed a burden on local governments who were faced with an influx of migrants. Nasseri says some progress was being made.
Some of those cases were starting to move forward. Some people were getting paroled in and being able to complete their cases on a case-by-case basis. But for the most part, it has been extremely hectic.
He says the pandemic has placed many obstacles for asylum seekers, including a backlog in the courts.
Some of them haven't seen a judge for over a year. They haven't had their case called. So we're going back beyond the pandemic, people waiting down there for a court date, and they're still waiting. Their case number still hasn't been called. No one has contacted them.
Nasseri says there's a lot of work that lies ahead, with thousands waiting for their immigration cases to be heard.
You have thousands of people here in the U.S. who are waiting for something to happen there. So the Biden administration is fighting the immigration battle on more than one front.
Alexandra Rangel, KPBS News.
San Diego wants to remove barriers to shelter for those who live in our local streets, on our local streets, that is. That would mean a more lenient policy for those dealing with alcohol and drug issues. KPBS health reporter Matt Hoffman explains the new partnership.
I think every San Diegan would acknowledge that the problem is not visibly getting better. And as a consequence, we have to try different approaches, and this is what we're doing.
San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria and County of San Diego officials are working to open new kinds of homeless shelters, ones that aim to help those with severe substance addictions.
This is not a time to tell people who are willing to raise their hand and accept services that they can't come in here. And if that means bringing someone in who is heavily intoxicated or in other kinds of active conditions that typically or historically have been barriers to admitting them into the service, what the county and the city are now saying is, no, we want to work with you.
The new harm reduction shelters follow a month-long homeless outreach push in the downtown area. San Diego already has several bridge shelters where 100 or more people are staying in group settings. But these new shelters, called Safe Havens, are designed to be smaller, housing 25 to 50 people in individual rooms.
To really bring online a new capacity that doesn't currently exist.
County Supervisor Nathan Fletcher is partnering with Gloria to make this a reality. He says right now many shelters won't let those in who aren't sober or committed to being sober, but he says that drug use will not be allowed inside these new shelters.
People aren't going to break the law in a government-funded location, but it's about having an open-door policy that says come as you are. In whatever state of mind you're in, we welcome you in, and we're gonna infuse that location with services.
Fletcher says people may be staying there for a significant period of time.
But I don't know that someone who's been on the streets for a decade, who has chronic severe alcoholism and drug addiction, it's going to take some time. And that's why we did an initial 5-year investment in this project. We've got to make that investment. We've got to make a sustained investment.
The county has committed to supplying specialized outreach teams, and it will split shelter operating costs with the city.
We want multiple locations, but look, this is very challenging. I mean, everyone wants you to solve homelessness as long as you don't do it anywhere near them. And so this is, it's difficult to identify locations, to find locations, to be able to get them going.
City officials have been tasked with finding locations for the new shelters. Nothing has been announced yet, but Gloria says community buy-in is key for their success.
I promise you that we can accommodate this into a community in a way that actually improves the neighborhood, reduces the number of unsheltered in the surrounding area. I believe that we can do this in a way that actually uplifts the neighborhood, doesn't harm it.
Gloria says these harm reduction model shelters have been the missing ingredient for success here.
We know that when we do that, it is far more likely that we can break that cycle of addiction, address the underlying mental health concerns, and ultimately get this person stably housed and off the streets for good. That's a part of the notion behind when I say I want to end chronic homelessness. This is how you do it.
The city is using American Rescue Plan funding for the safe haven shelters. Then Gloria wants to approach the city council to fund them long term.
It's a gap in our system and a part of why we are not seeing the change that we want to see in every one of our neighborhoods, a part of why we're spending more than we ever have, but we're not getting the results that we want. We want different results, so we're choosing to employ different tools, and I think we'll be proven successful.
He says the pilot shelter program is designed to get people who are chronically homeless off the streets, a goal that's also shared by Fletcher.
We know that if we bring you in and we make that initial help to say, hey, we care about you, we want to get you some help, that will lead to the outcomes that we think are best. But it's a very different approach and path.
The city and county want to open the shelters as quickly as possible, but right now the timeline is fluid. Gloria says it's important to get them right the first time.
It could be a city-owned facility staffed by county workers, and that could be it. It could be a privately owned facility with city and county teams with nonprofit partners as well. So we're open on that suggestion because at this point in time, we need to get this up and running. We need to start getting folks served in these safe havens.
Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
It's another busy week for our online audience at kpbs.org. Here's some of our most read stories. Is it time to bring back local mask mandates? That story you saw earlier from Melissa May connected with a lot of our readers. Interest is also growing in the California recall election. How to fill out and correct this unique ballot is getting plenty of reads. So is our story on the leading candidates. Here's Andrew Bowen's deep dive on some of the contenders.
We picked these candidates because they've most consistently polled among the top. And we'll start with the favorite, conservative radio host Larry Elder. Elder has been on the air for decades, and his national profile has helped him rise fast in the polls. Still, his politics would be a sharp right turn for blue California. Elder, who's black, denies the existence of systemic racism. He opposes gun control and abortion rights, and he believes the minimum wage should be abolished. Here he is speaking with the Sacramento Bee editorial board.
I never have quite understood why a third party like government, why that government feels it's anybody's business what my relationship is with an individual who willingly sold his labor and my relationship with that person when I willingly bought that labor. Why two people who are adults can't determine what the price of labor ought to be is beyond me.
Next, let's look at San Diego businessman John Cox. You might recognize him as the 2018 Republican candidate for governor, or his use of a live bear as a campaign prop. Cox wants to use the criminal justice system to force people experiencing homelessness into mental health treatment. He rejects the national best practice of giving them housing first. And he told Cal Matters the government's response to COVID-19 borders on hysteria.
It's not Ebola. It's not the smallpox. I think maybe what we ought to do is take a step back and take a deep breath and say, we'll do what we can. We'll keep people as protected as we can, but we're never going to get rid of this disease. And I think it's disingenuous on the part of politicians to think, gee, we're going to end this disease completely.
Another familiar face for San Diegans is former San Diego Mayor Kevin Faulconer. He's tried to claim the title of the most moderate Republican in the race, and the one with the most experience in elected office. On housing, Faulconer touts San Diego's Complete Communities program that allows denser and taller apartment buildings near public transit. And during a Cap Radio debate, he said California's laws need to change so similar programs can get done faster.
We shouldn't have had to do over a year that it took to do that. It needs to be streamlined. We need to make it easier so we can actually construct the housing where we want it, which is along our transit corridors. That's where you want the density, not in single-family neighborhoods.
Elder, Cox, and Faulconer are all Republicans who supported Donald Trump in 2020, but one Democrat has emerged as a top contender among the replacement candidates, YouTuber and real estate broker Kevin Paffrath. He's young, 29, and his platform includes converting vacant commercial buildings into homeless shelters. But he doesn't say where the shelters would be or how he paid for them. His pitch to voters, a Republican governor won't get anything done with Democrats controlling the legislature.
I'm not a far leftist, and I'm not a far rightist. In fact, most people who learn about me don't even know if I'm a Democrat or a Republican. That's because my policies and my solutions are California solutions. They're neutral, middle-of-the-road solutions, and I seek to provide those solutions with both Democrats and Republicans.
These are only 4 of 46 candidates trying to replace Newsom. But remember, if a majority of voters say no to the recall, Newsom stays in office, and the vote on who should replace him doesn't matter. Recent polls have shown likely voters are almost evenly split on whether Newsom should be recalled. That's because Democrats are more apathetic and less likely to vote, while Republicans are energized at the prospect of taking over the Golden State. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
For the first time, San Diego has an Office of Race and Equity. The woman leading those efforts is wrapping up her first days on the job, and she talked with KPBS Race and Equity reporter Christina Kim about her vision for the city.
The city of San Diego established the office last year after the murder of George Floyd brought a renewed call for racial equality and justice. Nearly a year later, Kim Desmond is taking the helm as the office's leader. She says while the protests on the streets may have cooled down, the work she hopes to do is just beginning.
It is our job to ensure that we are breaking down and dismantling structural racism and to bring forth outcomes that are more equitable. And that is not something that is going away. We see around the country that folks are demanding. They're demanding liberation and they're demanding equity from their local governments.
One of the biggest obstacles she expects to face is just getting everyone to understand what equity even means.
There's a lot of question around how we define equity. It's about caring that in our neighborhoods, there may be different needs, and you want someone's going to respond to your need. There are some neighborhoods who most certainly need different housing options. There's some neighborhoods who need different recreation center hours.
Desmond previously held a similar role in Denver. She's outlined an ambitious 100-day plan that begins with creating a training module for city employees.
My first 100 days includes building out a race and social justice learning and development academy for city employees. We need for all of our city employees to understand what it means to really do equitable work, what it means to unpack and understand systemic racism.
Black women have played a vital role in movements towards democracy and social justice, and at times are asked to solve problems like structural racism that they themselves did not create. Desmond says it's up to everyone.
We are dealing with a very complex problem, and we can't expect one racial group to carry the burden and the pressure of that. As a Black woman in this work, it most certainly is heavy to carry on my shoulders. And so I expect to partner with all of my white colleagues to ensure that they understand their work, their role in carrying forth liberatory work in local government.
Desmond knows that there are critics who question the need for an Office of Race and Equity, but she says she's ready to do the work to get people on board.
Our goal for those who are questioning this office, I would say that, do you want someone to respond to your needs? And if the answer is yes, Mayor Gloria is ensuring that we're building a city where all of us can thrive and that our individual needs are met.
Over the next few months, Desmond will hold town halls and meetings to get to know San Diego's many communities and begin her work with city employees. Christina Kim, KPBS News.
And we'll end with the latest from the KPBS Summer Music Series. You can watch the entire collection on the KPBS YouTube page. This is DJ Artistic, who is performing tonight in downtown San Diego. I'm Maya Trabulsi, and for all of us here at KPBS, thanks for joining us.
Hip hop is important for so many reasons. The unity, the individualism, the art, the music, the dance, the graffiti, the can art, the DJing, the entrepreneurialism, just bringing all these different cultures together, different religions, different backgrounds, to one common cause to keep building upon something that has been so great for us, which is hip hop. So as an event curator, I'm looking to give someone an experience. A lot of times people go out and they're missing something and they don't know what they need. So our events are to give you a hug, to give you the opportunity to get on stage, express your art, build with other people, and simply grow the scene. So it's important to give back and give people a platform, because I know what it's like not to have a platform to do my art. So I'm one of those people that'll go out and seek a venue, create a relationship. Hopefully they see the vision of what we're trying to do. And if that comes to light, I want to share it with everyone, because we're stronger together as a unit. And unity is a community, so it's real important that it's reciprocated for the culture to grow. I've seen people like Aloe Black play on our stage. People like Madlib play on our stage, even Gas Lamp Killer. So those are 3 people that have gotten humongous, that we helped in the beginning of their career by having a platform for them. And we also got the benefit by them being at the venue and people come out to see them, but then get exposed to some San Diego talent.